All right. Welcome, Matt. How we doing today? We're on episode number 12.
That's great. I just heard that. I can't believe it's been
Yeah.
12, but
I'm
I'm enjoying these
moving.
conversations with you very much.
Same, I think. And I'm hoping that, our listeners are getting a flavor of, what's happening
hmm
on the ground. We're living in an interesting moment. A lot is happening. And what we're really trying to do is bring perspectives to how AI is being implemented here, how it's evolving, how we see ourselves changing. And I think what we hope in terms of what the outcome will be in elevating the lives of people that are in accounting, I think also amplifying what we do is important. And I think also that we're hoping that service improves.
Yeah, you hit on it.
Yeah.
That's just the current conditions where I sit today, and like services are really. I mean, it's the only thing we do,
Yeah.
right? It's what we get hired for.
Well, what's interesting when we think about maybe let's start from the academic roots of
Mhm.
accounting. And when we think about how we were trained as accounting and the way they still continue to train accountants today, and thankfully there was actually an article recently that was in the Wall Street
Yeah,
Journal. It talked about how a lot of colleges are rethinking the education for an accountant. It's long overdue.
the word that I think was actually scrambling in the headline
Yeah,
because of how late it is to the curriculum.
yeah. Which is so puzzling to me. Like this, like again, I think when you think about it, it's like in 1988, the accountant community decided, I think we have too many CPAs, so maybe we got to make it
We
harder,
gotta
right?
tighten that
So
control.
let's try to control the number of CPAs. So let's add another year of schooling, which just was like incredibly dumb, right? For a number of reasons. One
Mhm.
is just when you think about the percentage of the economic disadvantaged was already extremely low.
Right,
I mean,
right.
right? And let's face it, it was a very white male profession at the time that's making these stupid decisions.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna save my comment. I was almost like, I think that's still happening today. Well, it is, but so I think when we look back at the 150 credit hour, it just didn't it didn't do anybody favors. But the thing was, which was kind of crazy about the added curriculum, it didn't really take into account, like, if they were going to give another year, you would have thought,
Very specified
agreed,
course load.
technology,
Yeah.
data, right? Anything that was around bringing in the skill sets to match the actual foundation layers of accounting, right?
You could tell that it was a really poorly thought out decision because of the fact that there was no curriculum built around it. So you didn't add any special to these people, right? You added
Right.
no specialty. You added a year of college costs, which many of them, as we talked about, didn't necessarily care. I mean, many of them did. Many of them did. So, but you added no curriculum. You added time.
Yeah,
And time in an apprenticeship could have made sense,
100%.
but time taking any courses
Any
you would
courses they wanted.
desire made zero sense whatsoever.
It
So
just is,
I'm just going to have further education to have further education
right.
in any area I desire. I don't think that made anyone a better accountant.
No, and what's unfortunate about this too is like who, like I still feel that there has to be a democratization of some of these decisions that go on too, right? But I think when we look at the ways in which they bang that up, but the ways I think that I'm surprised the universities haven't moved faster. You know,
Adoption of the curriculum, you mean,
yeah,
or changing to
yeah. I
the,
mean, I
yeah.
get like the bureaucratic areas, but like in universities, especially some of the more innovative universities,
Mhm.
it's interesting to me that they're waking up to this now.
Right.
You know,
Right, because it's been obviously highly publicized, and I'm sure that it's impacting their work. They've been aware of it for some time. They have the ability and the tools to imagine or to determine whether or not AI was utilized in examinations, in essays, and
right?
things. So it wasn't as if the tech was unknown to
Yeah,
them. So it is a little bit surprising that it's taken so long to develop or at least start to develop a core curriculum around these tools and
Yeah.
around the future. Around, I mean, that's what you're paying for is the preparation. So you're paying for maturity. In my opinion, you're paying for maturity, the preparation of the individual for what comes next,
Right.
and the core curriculum around accounting, I think, is still very important. I If you think about intermediate, all of those
Oh,
things,
for sure.
maybe kick cost out of there.
Oh,
That's just
man. That was
that was my
hard.
feeling.
Yeah.
But it just seems like it would be relatively simple to look in today and say, okay, we need to add things like, like we teach audit methodology, but should we be teaching how to utilize a tool to analyze your audit methodology? Or we teach sampling. Should we be teaching, we don't have to necessarily pick a tool, but how to utilize a tool to accelerate sampling
Right.
or like certain avenues within the audit. And certainly on the accounting side, just making them aware. It would seem like you could add, I don't know, 4 or 5 courses pretty simply to a
Yeah.
curriculum to change it dramatically in what you're preparing these students for in the next, you know.
Yeah, and I think that there's just something wrong in with America today, right? There's just something fundamentally wrong, which I'm hoping with this disruption that's occurring that we do start to see a shakeout, right?
Mhm.
I think there's things that are just missing at such a human level, right? When we talk about service, I think first of all, like I think one of the biggest misses with the way that we were even brought through and taught in academically was great. We got a great foundation,
Mhm.
right? And you need that still today. Like you
Mhm.
need a foundation. But no one talked about accounting as a service.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about like if you go into a public accounting firm, that's that's going to be more of a service aspect, right? It's accounting is a service.
It is, and internally at a company, it's different. You can feel it when you walk into the company, whether the accounting organization within that company is a service focused,
Yep.
where they recognize that their job is to deliver information to the variety of people that they, provide that information for, or it's an afterthought. We do it to prepare the records, and it's kind of like we are the gate of
Yeah.
no. Like you come to us to ask permission for spend for certain reporting, and we're kind of the arbiter of
Yeah,
valuable
I
or
think
not.
that's a good point. I'll stay there for a second
Mhm.
because I think that one of the things that I think gets misinterpreted about accounting, and there is an element of this, no question, right? Is that accounting equals control,
Right.
right? And so if you think about that as the root of a lot of problems that we've had in organizations, right? So like even in a public accounting firm, accounting equals control, technical acumen equals control, equals the ability to have power,
Right.
right? And so what happens a lot of times is that the accountant starts to think of themselves as I have power,
Right.
right? Not that all of this influence allows me to impact and teach and provide service.
And be a servant leader
Correct.
within that group. It's really funny. I'm just thinking about it when you say this now. It's the gating issue of go back to our first part of this discussion. The gating issue was too many CPAs. Let's make it harder.
Yeah.
Let's control
Yep. Control.
inflow, right? And
Yep.
and so that's kind of, I guess, permeated the way that people think about this. Is there is a ton of work that goes into becoming a CPA, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
there is like I guess you'd call it somewhat like pride of effort and pride of
Yeah.
the authorship
Yeah.
of your own, but at the same time, there is a pretty big divide between when we look not only at public, but as you've mentioned internally, like the divide between the servant leader, CFO, and accounting departments, and the to be served and control and commands. And these individuals, like these groups, are gonna move out.
Yes.
They're gonna move
Well,
out. They're
that's what
becoming
AI
less
is going to do.
valuable.
I
Right.
mean, this is why we feel euphoric in a way about the advances that AI
Mhm.
will make because I think we feel a lot of times hostage to individuals.
We, we service is really hard.
Yeah.
Like it's just no matter what you do, there's a variety of things that come into play with delivering a service every month, every quarter, every year on a consistent pace with individuals who are subject to everything that happens in life. There's ups, there's downs, people go through things. And when you rely solely on that, because as we mentioned, the tools have not really helped to date, the software hasn't, people are, it's probably the most difficult thing to figure out in the world
Mm-hmm.
is, an individual, what drives them,
Oh yeah.
what's going to cause them to react in certain ways. I mean, there's the
But that's where culture comes in,
right.
right? So I think that's why what I worry about just in our own country is that when you go elsewhere, and we just had an experience where Jim Duffy just got back from Ireland, and before we came in here, we were talking. And he was just like, it's crazy. It's like they work hard over there, but they're really nice.
I know.
And it is true when you kind of see other aspects of the world, you start to see that we just aren't that nice to one another. You know,
It shocks me
Yeah.
because I try a lot, and if you know me well, I always am smiling no matter what I have
Yep.
going on. We've had many heavy things and it's like I can choose the way that I'm going to react to all of this stuff, and I try to actively make the choice to be positive far more than I'm negative. Right? Those are choices people make, and I try to make every interaction
Yeah.
positive, even if it's a negative interaction, like where I know it's going to be bad news or something. I can choose the way that I approach that. And as long as it's kind of solidified in facts, you can deliver the facts a variety of different ways. So going back to service, I just feel as if there's been like a generalized entitlement of people that the phrase that I use is like they were born on third base and they act like they hit a triple.
Well, that's what's happened to the country.
Right.
I mean, this is almost a precursor to this is how empires fall. But I
Yeah.
think what you're seeing, I think that we've had very interesting, I would say, COVID put everything in a very different context.
Mhm.
And I still think we're trying to come out.
It's
Of-
amazing
of
the
that.
lingering effects of it. It's
It's still
everywhere.
It's still everywhere. And I think it's this and I think there's a lot of things we could, like, again, this could be a very long conversation, but I'm going to try to boil it down to it's a lost art right now. Service is a lost art, right? So like when someone actually greets you, it's noticeable.
It
Like
is.
it used to be that everybody would talk about service
Yeah.
and it'd be like, how do you differentiate that? Everyone's saying that, but it's actually become, you can actually differentiate
You can.
on service,
Yeah.
you know?
I like, not even joking. I was explaining to you, and I've said it multiple times now. We had a dinner on Saturday night. We took my mother to dinner. She's 85. And, we try to do that as much as
Yeah.
we can. She's older. She's harder to get out of the house. And we
It's-
got her out.
and it's nice to for them. you
Yeah.
know?
And we picked a place the way the rest of the world picks places, I presume, which is like went on Google. We were dropping my daughter off somewhere and it was like, what's around here that's
Yep.
good? And we went to a place that had good reviews, I would say, generally. You're always going to have, no matter who you are, you're going
Yeah.
to have those negatives. So I try to read positives. They treated us so well.
That's great.
So it was the Tabor Road Tavern.
Yeah.
And it's not close to our house. We will absolutely come back because of the
Awesome.
service. It was almost as if the waiter had been trained, which I'd imagine he was. Like, it seems like a place where they train people. He gave her the attention. He made her have an awesome night. And it was so noticeable.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in the, I think like, so
But one more point I just
Yeah,
want to make
please
to this,
do
'cause
it.
it's
Yeah, please.
important. The food was 40 minutes late. And I still report how good the experience was because he gave us the upfront notice. He came to us and said, I'd recommend we put everything in
Yes.
together. We have a really large party here, and we actually don't have one tonight. We have two.
right.
And the way that works in the kitchen, it gets really hard because they kind of all move out together. So I appreciate patience. I'm going to put them in as quickly as I can and I'll monitor them. And I mean, it was just so he understood that there was going to be delays,
Yep.
set it up front.
Which is
we just
beautiful.
changed what we expected. Like, I personally was like, all right, we'll sit here a little longer with our drinks or what. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. And the fact that he was the appropriate amount of follow-up, because we've all been to a place where it's like, there's annoyance
Yes.
and you're like, just kind of leave me alone
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
could be
Yes,
here.
Yes.
So there's an art to service
Oh, yeah.
that's really important.
It is an art, and I do think that it is something though that an individual has to be very aware,
Mhm.
okay, of the emotional cues. They have to be in a position where it's outside yourself. Like you just got to be so focused on the experience that you want to provide,
Mhm.
right? And I think one of the things that is just interesting to me is just the way that we become so individualistic.
Right.
Because it's not natural. It really isn't. Like we are tribal.
We are a pack animal.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure this out, and it's just how do we get back to reinforcing these things? Because I think there is some degree of getting back to teaching just what it is about to be human,
Mhm.
and these skills that you would think are embedded in an individual and they're just going to come out naturally, they're not coming out naturally.
Yeah.
So something's in the way of of preventing us to be what we're actually supposed to be.
Right.
Like, as we want to belong, we want to be tribal, we want to be social,
Right.
and it's like this opposite effect is going on.
It's very strange to think about during our upbringing, the way that we delivered service at the direction of the leadership was with a very big stick and a small carrot,
Correct.
right? It was, you are going to take care of these clients.
Or
You
you're
are
going to be gone.
correct,
Yeah.
with a small reward.
Yeah.
But back times were
Oh
different,
yeah.
and it was like you could, and so the reward wasn't driving us,
Mm-mm.
right? Because you weren't doing it because you were going to get a $3,000 bonus. The stick wasn't motivating for me, like just as a
No.
person. Like I looked at the stick and I'm like, whatever, I'll
Yeah, yeah.
great. Like what are you going to do to me that hasn't been
It's
done
relational.
already? It was the EQ of
Yeah.
seeing somebody and realizing I
Relational.
wanted to serve.
Yeah, or that if
wanna-
you didn't, you're gonna hear about it,
Right.
right? Like, like you're gonna get a call from whoever, whether it was the client saying you disappointed me,
Right.
or someone on the team, you disappointed me. What I don't understand today is like you could say that, and the individual's like numb to it.
I know it's
It's
strange.
very strange.
It's
And I'm
strange.
not trying to. This is generalizing comments, right? But it's enough for us to have a conversation about
It is.
right? Because like I've even mentioned to people, like I'll walk into a place and there's somebody hired, actually paid to greet, and they don't do it well, right? So it's almost like
Yeah.
it's like you're annoying them.
Yeah.
Like, why are you coming in here? You're bothering me. I was just on my phone. And it's like you're sitting there. This is your job, right? So I think that like what we're trying to get at in the speaking about accounting and what AI and what we're hoping happens is that it will start to tune in organizations to start thinking differently about why are you existing?
Mhm.
What is the purpose, right? And even on the inside of accounting departments, right, is to what we're hoping AI does is ask these questions, more existential questions, right? So the existential question that's really been out there for many has been like, oh God, what's AI going to do to my business, right? Am I going to exist,
Mhm.
right? And it's very interesting what's happening if you've been reading and following about Meta right now is morale is horrific.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
it's funny how these stories get like
Yep.
viral. But it's just like the stories of like just like there's like apparently now again, who knows if this is true or not, but could you imagine they were talking about like they're walking in and there's just empty boxes waiting to be packed. Right? Like that's like so like,
Oh my god.
at the most extreme of what
Could you
AI is doing.
imagine?
I mean,
Yeah.
could you imagine like
That's
that
just-
that culture? Like, I don't know, that may be yours.
Yeah.
So so you have at the most extreme, like the existential, like, will I exist? Or like, what do I do to my business? Because I have to spend $100 billion and I got to find that money because I've got to have the power to do what I do. Right.
Right. To be
You know,
competitive.
get the chips and all. So that's at the but there's these more existential questions about like, what will you use AI to become?
Yeah. So there's the global question
Yes.
about what we use AI to become, and that's the businesses to determine what they want to do. But if we think about the accountant, right? If we think
Yeah.
about like a lot of what we do here is to think about the area of the world where we play and how that's being shaped and will be shaped. And the reason that I have like excitement around this is, and I've said it before, what AI should do for accountants is demonstrate to them what they were actually supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
What all of that training, what all of that work, all of those things, like they didn't go through that to parse through schedules, to take a number and put it into an Excel sheet so that they could present a prepaid schedule or a fixed that. Like that's not the deliverable.
Correct.
That was historically the deliverable.
Yes.
And that was and that's when you talk about like the soul crushing,
Yeah.
like that work is being done and it sucks. You can't make that rosy.
Well, the other thing,
right?
just don't lose your thing, but I want to double down on something there because we spoke about earlier, just like this academic kind of approach has been the same, that same sort of how you were graded in school, right? Like check, like you get an A or like, and it's all rooted around, like, remember review notes,
Oh, yeah.
right? And like you had someone that would love the control and power and be like, and they would be rude in their review notes or give you so many reviews, just like using it as power and control. But then you had others that was more like just review notes, like very like
Practical, real.
yeah, or just go do this,
actual-
right? Like
right.
get it done. And then there was other ones who was like teaching, right? So I
Right.
always thought there was like three flavors in a way.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about
Right,
it.
but so you can choose, like you could choose, like do you want to just get it done, right? Do you want to be that power monger, or do you actually want to influence?
Right.
Do you want to teach? Do you want to make that person better, right? So there's always this exercise and accounting, and I get that. That's the apprenticeship,
Correct.
right? There is a part of apprenticeship, and you hope that people are using door number 3 more than door 1 and 2. But I think that just stay there for a second because this is important. It's also, though, because it's been like that way where you feel like you're delivering something to someone to get graded, right? It's prevented people from understanding like the big picture.
Correct. And people emulate their leaders generally, right? So if I worked for somebody who I handed something in, and everyone works hard, right? Like people work hard.
Again, I think you have to look at the human nature.
Right.
Fundamentally,
I want to do good.
Yes.
I wanna
Like
do
these
good.
are like, again, like we have to get back to like the fundamentals of human nature.
No one gets
What's
into accounting because
preventing
it's
humans
easy.
from being human?
Right.
It's the culture. It's what you're seeing
It is.
in everyday. Like again, like you start big. It's like what you see every day on social media, or what's happening in our government, which is so dysfunctional. Like it all trickles down.
Right.
And so like this is what's happening, right? So you need organizations to be like, we're not, whatever you see out there is not real, right? Like this is about being human. And accounting is about being, is here's how we're going to amplify the human qualities of being an accountant.
Mhm.
You have influence. You can go and change the course of not just individuals that you're working with, because you have that too, but the direction of a business.
Right. So where I was going with the, review notes and all that thing is like people emulate leadership. And if I worked for somebody that gave me 300 review notes, I would assume that in order to get promoted into the position, I'd have to generate 300 review notes.
Mm-hmm.
So I would actually alter my review style dependent upon who the partner was when I was working there. And, it took time to develop my own style and be comfortable enough in what I really wanted to do. So I think it's important to recognize how much influence the leadership has at every company, and that's the culture. But to the point of what the accountant is going to be, the exercise, in my opinion, would be pretend there's no such thing as a prepaid schedule anymore, a fixed asset schedule. Those things are gone.
Yeah.
They don't exist anymore, right? So now you're an accountant either at a private company or what would you do? Like, what would you ask for first if you were walking into a company to be a really good accountant for them, right? And I think you would rethink and say, well, I'd want to understand what's going on here.
Correct.
And so in order to do that, you'd go back to certain things that you know. So you'd say, like, give me a P&L and a balance sheet and assume we live in a world where it's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So your first instinct as an accountant, professional skepticism is beaten to death in college. You can suspend that because you have comfort that this is correct. Then you would actually go through it and have thoughts as a business person
Yeah.
as to what all your training is. So we, through our training as accountants, formally get taught the language of business.
Yes.
I always feel like accounting is the language of business, and
And
you
it
either
is.
speak it or you don't.
It is.
So you have all of that knowledge. So all of the accountants that are like, what's going to do to my job? What's it going to do? You're going to be able to, develop those muscles and understand how to use them. And I just feel like I kill it, but there's so much more accounting to be done. And the word that people use for accounting now, they think about putting a number in a bucket or in a spreadsheet or in a thing. It's not accounting.
Right.
It's not accounting. Accounting is the language of business. And we're going to become storytellers, leaders within the companies that we serve to give them better information, to make better decisions more quickly than their competitive set. That's
right.
the goal of getting the accountant elevated to where we want them, where they
right.
want to be.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're hoping AI does, right? AI, if it holds true to its promise, which we believe it will,
Mm-hmm.
what it's going to be able to do is it's going to provide an organization to, first of all, like rethink its existence,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like, hey, we've been trapped doing things a certain way because we had to,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how do we look at our processes? How do the ways that we interact with one another? How can we use AI to remove obstacles, to move things through the system better,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also, when you think about your culture, can you amplify the culture as well as the individual performance,
Right.
And so I think when what you're talking about, which makes a lot of sense, and I'm hoping that this also does what prohibits. What you have to look at sometimes is like, well, why don't we have what our desired outcome is, right? Like, so what's in the way, right? And so a lot of times when we think about what's in the way, we look at, well, it's this, and we go to like trying to solve this one aspect, right? And a lot of times it's so much deeper than that, right? And so it's, to me, what AI is also going to be able to do is going to remove this one element in accounting that we started with, which is about this power and control
Mm-hmm.
and being held hostage, even on the inside of organizations, right? A lot of organizations get held hostage to their controller. We've seen it,
Oh,
right? We
yeah.
have seen it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and that controller has bamboozled, or that CFO has bamboozled leadership. And they, for whatever reason, there's this blind faith and trust that this person is right. And a lot of times it's like they're either hiding something, right? Because they're using power and control. They are
Protecting
not
day to day.
There you go.
I
Like
feel
they
like
really
that's a
don't have
big-
the information, right? It's a house of cards. We've seen
Yep.
it time and time again,
Yep.
right? And we sit there sometimes like so beholden to this, like we can't break through. Like we've talked to the owner, so that's going to be nice on the inside to have this ability to
Yeah,
really
there's
break
going to
through
be
that.
what I would consider a demystification
Correct
of accounting
of like
and
what
the way it gets
really
carried
happens
out.
in
Yeah.
accounting.
Because if you're the owner, and most of our owners don't have an accounting background and they don't truly understand what goes into it, they really understand the output, right?
Yes.
So they see the output and they're like, been here forever. They tell me the commissions are like they're a nightmare.
It takes
and
a week to get that done.
And
you
no
know?
one's ever actually challenged that
No.
or broken it down or thought about it differently. And the individual has that
And
control.
we've seen it. Like I just have a real quick anecdotal story about this. So we had this one person at a company, and that was their full-time job,
Mhm.
doing the commission schedule.
I mean, think about how awful that job is, by the way.
But it was the most important because all of the salespeople.
But you have to incentivize sales.
Well, oh my God, you need revenue, right? So it was the most important thing, right? But this guy made it like the most difficult thing in the world. And he was the most methodical. I laugh because every Monday was Friday was bagel day. So it was like, he couldn't wait. The bagels come in, and then he would get to the committee. And meanwhile, it's like, we got to get the payroll.
Yeah.
We need the numbers. But but they were beholden to this one individual. And then eventually, like, somebody came and said, wait a second, let me look at what's going on. Can't we use a macro in Excel, right?
Right.
So like, and then again, technology broke that.
Right.
And so when we think about AI, it will help us break through where we feel like we're being held hostage, because it's going like, see, that's the one thing that a lot of people are doing. It's like, and we know, I know it's called intelligence, right? So like, I'd like to think of it a little bit differently. It's like, it's intelligence, but it's more of just like, and I don't want to use democratization because that's an overused word, right? But what it allows the ability is it's like it's a flattening
Right.
out. It's an equalizing where you're able to now have a layer that streams across the organization that is no longer held in individuals,
Right.
right? And so like that transparency starts to exist and in a layer where now it's there for the taking. It's
Right.
not locked in a person,
Correct.
right? So we're just keep talking about artificial intelligence. That's just like it's not put in the context that really what you have to think about it is. It's like what it does is it amplifies your individuals, but it also as an organization will allow you to start to see things more clearly
Mhm.
and not having to go through the ways you've had to be beholden to certain individuals.
And it's not the fault of the business owner necessarily, right? Because they don't understand how it gets done, and they get stuck with the individual that's in that role, and whether or not they're adaptive to change or excited for
It
it.
is just a people problem.
Right. It is. So this is where we get into the theory of AI and the difference between the concrete synthesis, which is like the person doing it, the
Yep.
stuff, and the abstract synthesis, which is that developmental layer of technology that we're looking to do. And the more that we can move away from that concrete is going to be, it's going to add so much visibility to these companies.
It's going to be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
What it's going to do, it is going to allow your best people to be better,
Mhm.
right? It's going to allow your good people to be better.
If they embrace it.
It's going to, if they embrace it, 100%. But if they don't, they're going to be known, right? Because there's going to be there's going to be a shakeout, right? Of because what I'm trying to say is like what happens is that there's a lot of fooling that occurs because of the lack of a layer of transparency and intelligence.
Goes back to the gate.
Yeah.
Our whole conversation. Like they have that gate because the commissions are so hard. You wouldn't understand what goes into this. And they do need to be highly accurate, as everything in accounting does, right? We've talked about it's not probable, right? So, but there's also the misnomer that accountants are good, or the misunderstanding that accountants are really good at math. You show me a good salesperson, and they are way better at math than an accountant.
CSP is like 40% off $150.
I know. Like the immediate mental math of those people is exceptional. So they do need to be right. And I understand the some of it is like, all right, I've got to check the schedule 6 times before it goes out because God forbid there's an error in it. But there are things available today that can upend that entire model and that control and that gating that could be implemented that can streamline so much of it.
Yeah, and what it'll do is it'll start to unlock. You're going to be able to service better. Every department,
right? Think about
should be
that
able to service better.
So that person knows cold how that commission stuff works at any company, right? Pick it. And in a dream world, commissions are easy because it's 3% of sales.
Yep.
But then you have real life enters in, and you have somebody that gets 2.5 of this, 5.5 of that. There's disparity amongst it. So there's like difficulty in there. When that starts to become automated, you have an individual that knows this system cold. And if they embrace the technology that's allowing for this, think about the consultative aspects they could add to that.
Oh, God,
and talking about unifying commissions, the value of it, what would it look like? How would we actually do something like this? They know the inner workings of it. So it's getting them to recognize like your day-to-day is going to change.
Right.
But do you think it's more high value to the company for you to participate in the commissions or prepare the commission schedule. And if you believe the value is in preparing it, there isn't going to be a bright future
Exactly.
for what you do.
And so like, and that's sort of what I, we'll start to wrap here, but I think the key message that we're looking to come across with today is that a lot of conversation is around cutting costs, right? Doing things with less people. And thinking about how do we remove labor. I know all that is important. Get it. However, there's not a lot of conversations about what it ultimately can do to enhance the interworkings of an organization. And how do you start to think about, this would be incredible if I actually can have purchasing, my department in purchasing has a better relationship with my warehouse people, my inventory management people, my customer service people. Like, this is how you have to start thinking about it. It's like, this unlocks a lot of the things that I have been beholden to, because I have had a system of record that has forced me to have so many workflows. And those workflows are very interdepartmental, but they're not collaborative, right? And as a result, you have people working in their silos, right? And in their workflows and in their departments. And it's interesting when we ask the question, a lot of times we well, talk to me about like, and we go on the inside of a company. It's the most fascinating thing when we get in the, like, as I'm always like, for us, like, we have more visibility sometimes than the CEO or the owner, because like, we're on the ground.
We have
right?
time.
Like,
We are hired to do it.
we're on doing an audit, and that was the most fascinating thing for me, is like, we'd be doing an audit, and we get to know the landscape really well.
Yeah.
We would know probably more than the owner knows, because like we're getting a sense of like we ask for things.
It's really true, because if you even think about internally here at WIS, right? I don't know a lot of the inner workings of the way our accounting gets done internally, which is a funny thing.
Yeah.
But if we were audited, the audit firm would know,
Yeah.
there's a variety of things that
like
we
they'd
would
be
discover.
like, have you had to deal with Colleen before? I'm like, God, that woman's nuts, right?
Yeah.
So like, we knew all these things. Like, we're on the ground. You're out there for a few weeks, and it's like you're asking for information. So you would see like, what is the way in which they're coming back with the information? Do they know their craft, right?
Yeah.
And then like there were certain people that wouldn't come out all day long, right? We had that guy. So I think what we also will ask sometimes is like, well, what is it like when you get the departments together, And it's interesting sometimes the viewpoint of what they think versus what we hear.
Yeah.
And like, it's amazing to me how much interdepartmental fighting goes on. And that's what is going to help here.
It's because of a lack of intelligence, a lack of EQ, a lack of data,
it gets
right?
caught,
those...
and it's just like, it's just these, it's unfortunate. It just becomes caught in these, like, it depends on the individual.
It does. And listen, this was during my formative years of learning. There was, when I was in college, it was like Jack Welch. And that's just the time frame that I was in. And the phrase that comes to mind, which is extremely relevant then and will become more in focus now with AI, his line of, if GE knew what GE knew, we'd be twice the size.
Yeah.
And it holds very true with most companies, that if they were able to harness the information that they had, they'd just be far better. Yeah. And that's the ultimate dream of what we think that AI can do for the accounting department and ultimately for the company.
Yep. All right. Well said. That's a wrap.
Yeah.
We'll see you again next week. That's a wrap on This Week in Accounting AI. If you found this useful, make sure to follow us. On Spotify, smash that follow button on our show page. And on Apple Podcasts, tap the plus sign and leave us a quick rating while you're there. I'm Paul Peterson. See you next week.